thinking that I was going to be the first person to come forward. So I've been sitting in the car. So good afternoon to you all. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, we give thanks and praises to God Almighty, Lord of all the worlds, Master of the day of judgment. Deity we worship and thy aid we seek. Show we the straight way, the way of those who in the go astray. Amen. Remember those Africans that prayed me born in the wilderness. Amen. Remember those Africans that prayed flat down in the wilderness. Amen. El Ama, El Paru, Haiti, Jamaica, Curaçao, Martinique, Brazil, Honduras, Belize, Guatemala, Venezuela, Ecuador, Anne's Walton, Fort Adam, Jedali, Kayalele, Kayalani. Oh, the soul is so happy to be here with you, the African churn on this day. Don't be ashamed for God. The one right there called Craig Amara. How you I have to come in with a microphone and I ain't being controlled. I can't move around. My God, what's going on here? That's why I sit in the car and look. What is happening to this? You know the spirit must move around. No movement, Lord Jesus. What do you want to do to me today? Yes, we have come here. We have come here. We have crossed the water. We have come here not for you, not for you. We come here for terror. We come here for terror. We come here for answers. We come here again not for you. We come across the water. We look, we see Boaf, Bo. We go and see, oh. When I say Boaf, I say Bo. Some of you still not understand. What is Boaf? Boaf stands for the falcon. We go back to Africa. We come of the elephant clan. We see Batalapi. We see those of the fish clan. Yes. Each one of we have a. We come here to celebrate the clans of we. Because we understand about our story tied to Brian. We come here for a place that we call Hardwick. We come here for Georgetown. Do you all know Georgetown? Do you know Georgetown? No. My God, you know nothing. We look to the deep water over there to the Atlantic. Back in the 1700s, they went to create a place called Georgetown right here in this county. The deep water port, much like Savannah and Sunbury, but they would not be successful. But then we go, but we still pay homage to Georgetown, to Hardwick, because some do not, when we speak of terror, some of them think of a movement. No, terror is the land. In our language, when we say terror, that means the land. We come here for the land. Yes, we remember the land. We remember crossroad. Do you all know a crossroad? My God. Richmond Hill. Oh, Jesus. We understand why we have to come here because the church know the story. Yes, we come in looking to Clyde. We see Clyde. I start to ask if you know Clyde. Clyde be a community right now that be on a place called Camp Stewart. Oh, no, you don't call it Camp Stewart. You call it Fort Stewart. The community right there. We look and we see a division when Camp Stewart come along of the county called Bryan. You have Upper and Southern Bryan County when that comes along. Yes, it is no accident why we must come here. We must show that you are umoja, you are unified. And yes, we see we come across the water. We're going to stop at this right here. When we come across the water, did they look? We look. Then we go to the ocean. We hear the wind. We hear the birds. We say, sound like home. Then we go to the bull grape arbor and get the bull grape that y'all call scapanine. We go there and we nyam and Gullah means to eat. We taste it. We say, it tastes like home. But the place in the be home. But we fight teeth and nails to make this place home. We come across the water. We come across the water. Some call the Ethiopian Ocean. That's some call the Atlantic. When we come across the water, we come with the knowledge of God in the mind, their heart, and their soul. We come in with the knowledge of the Trinity. Do you all know the Trinity, children? When I say children, that means if you're 18 years old, 19 years old, you're still a child. Do you know the Trinity?
No, sir.
Am I around heathens right now? So you know when the Spirit get, oh Lord, he didn't let you know that when the Spirit come here to you, the Spirit will ask you, child, you know the Spirit, you know how the Spirit will be. Will ask you questions, a trickery mind, you know that. So you don't want to play the game. Some say that the Trinity is cotton. Oh, I slipped. God and the Spirit, the Trinity, to God, the Father, Holy Spirit. No, that not be the Trinity. It be cotton, rice, and indigo. We come across the water with the genius of God in our mind, with our hearts and our souls. The genius of the Trinity in our minds, with our hearts and our souls. That's why we be brought here. We come here with the knowledge right here in this sacred soil right here, this hallowed ground. We say we come here for ancestors. Ancestor means ancestors in our language. We come here for the ancestors. We come here for the land of the ancestors that some do not know. Many travel to a place and they look, they think they know all about the place, but do not understand the fabric of the place, the foundation of the place. They do not know the soul of the place. They do not know the blood of the place. That's why we come here, to help you now to understand the foundation, the fabric, the connection of we. And we smile. We go and look. I should tell you a quick story of Libadaje. Libadaje. I should let you know this. We should crack a tea, and crack a tea that Gullah makes to speak. We will speak the language of African people right here, Gullah, but you may hear some Creole, you may hear some Portuguese, you may hear some Spanish, you will hear the languages spoken right here. Because we people who come here, we speak purely our languages. Oh Lord. We come here speaking 7 languages. Yes, Africans who come here to this soil called Georgetown, Crossroad, called Clyde. We come here speaking 7 languages. We are not monolingual, bilingual, we are multilingual. And what you see today, you see a fabric of today. You don't understand the fabric. What are the trees? Languages are with people. We come here across the water with the knowledge would be. And so, I should give you a story of Libadaje, a story of liberation. That, do you all know the Underground Railroad?
Yes.
And what is the direction of the first Underground Railroad?
North.
South.
Oh.
No, you're not going to know. It goes south to a place called Gracia Real Santa Teresa de Mose. Better known as Fort Mose or Fort Mose, right outside of St. Augustine, Florida. That is the first free place in this country for Africans. Because what happened? The Baka came Baka. In our land, Baka means European or Caucasian. Go to Jamaica, Guyana, Belize, Guatemala. This is Baka. The word stands for European. That's over here, it stands for European Caucasian. But you go to Africa where the word comes from, the East people, we say over there, we say Mbakara. See how African language traveled from Africa to what you call, a place called Bryan County. So Gullah is not broken English, bad English, baby talk or dialect. It is an African language. The only African people in this country that have a language are right here. They speak Gullah. But some have been told to disconnect from their own story. But back to the Spanish king called Carlos. He would say to the Africans in the colony of Georgia and South Carolina, he said, you can be free here as long as you become Catholic and pick up weapons to defend the Spanish crown. Yes, the first Underground Railroad, 1600s, not north, 1600s. And this very soil right here, the town right here, is a part of Liberty for weed. This is where they go to get to La Florida. And I know some of you talk of Oglethorpe say there be no Africans here in the colony of Georgia. A lie. Who you think led the streets and the squares in Savannah? Who you think we're doing right here in Hardwick? Doing right here in Georgetown? Doing it in Brunswick? Africans are felling the trees. They're building the homes. Yes, we make the connection right here in the sacred soil of them. We see them on the movement to freedom down there in St. Augustine. And we smile. They can also look and see some of those children who are born in St. Augustine.
The coolness of the night, we see a pair
We then see the husband of the old man begin to clip her hair. And they clip her hair. Oh, and they have picked up some spectacles that you call glasses. We see them pick up the glasses. And they now go to the old man. They put their hat on her head, put the spectacles on her eyes. They take the cloth, wrap it around her throat and around her hands. We see them now get on a carriage that now take them to a train. We see them get on a train that come to the coastal areas of Georgia. We see them now get to a place called Savannah. We see them get to Savannah. We then see them now get on a steamer that will take them to a place called Philadelphia. Then we go and see them go to a place called Boston. And we then begin to hear them talk about their story. We hear them talk about the story and say that we disguised my wife as a bucker man, as a man. A young bucker man that was frail and who had to go up north to get medical attention. And I, her husband, that I was her servant, or I was his servant. And so that plan is one of the greatest plans of escape of Africans in the 1800s, a part of the Underground Railroad stories that go north. Ellen Craft and William Craft out of Middle Georgia. We see them come through here. But then we see them in Boston. We see them in Boston, but then something happens called a law, the Fugitive Slave Act. We see them with the act, and they say that you can return anyone back to the South if you know their locations. So they leave from the United States, and they go to a place called England. They're in England. They will begin working. They will create farms in England. They will have children in England. But then something happened called the Big Shoot. Excuse me. The Big Shoot in Gullah means the Civil War. The Civil War happened in the United States, and then the Civil War, the Union's back together. What happens after that? Africans, some do not know. If I ask you the question, some will look dumbfounded, will not understand or conceptualize. The greatest private detective work in the world of all time occurred after the Civil War. And some do not understand. It happened domestically and internationally. Because Africans around the entire world, around the entire nation, began to investigate where family members were, where they had been sold to, where they had been taken to. They now will be in England, one of them, one family. They'll be in England. And in England, Ellen Craft will write to them in a place called Georgia. She said, I'm trying to find my mother. Where's my mother? And from Georgia, they write back and say, your mother is still in Clinton, Georgia. And so William Craft, Ellen Craft, who had this great story of escape out of the United States, moved back to the place called Georgia. And they come to a place called Way Station, Georgia, Richmond Hill. The story that's written about in documentaries, told in documentaries, written about. People not even understanding that the conclusion of the story is coming here to a place called Richmond Hill. Ellen Craft, William Craft. And in fact, they said, if I asked you about the school here for the Africans, you would go and say, George Washington Carver School. No. Long before that, we have the Craft School right here, and Craft, a school that taught agricultural sciences. Agricultural sciences, farming, vocational work, right here in Bryan County, in Richmond Hill, Georgia, Way Station, Georgia. And see how they have forgotten that great story. That all others around the entire world know the story, and they stop with them in England. But they don't come back to the United States. And when they come back to the United States in that story, they must come right here. To the soil, this hallowed and sacred ground, the terror, the ancestors. You gotta come right here. But see, when you don't know your own story, you think you've made no contributions. You don't understand that you are a part of the American story. It is you. And so we look and we smile at Ellen Craft and William Craft as they tried to educate the Africans right here with regard to agriculture and vocational work. Yes, we pay homage. Then we go and look. We see the man by the name of London Harris. You all know of London Harris? Any of you? Y'all don't know London Harris? My God. What? Where y'all from? Oh, Lord. Many ask, do you all know a man by the name of Henry Ford?
Oh, yeah.
One person who did not sell any property to Henry Ford, his name was London Harris. An African man right here. London Harris would not sell any of his land to Henry Ford. And then much like, down the road, down 17, you have a place there in Riceboro called Geechee. At Geechee, every November, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, at Geechee, we do a sugarcane harvest right there. We are grinding cane. Guess what London Harris did? London Harris here in Bryan County, in Richmond Hill, Wayne Station, Georgia, what did he do also? He produced sugarcane, syrup, and molasses. London Harris will not sell his property to Henry Ford. And how you forget that story? London Harris family also, some do not realize. Anyone ever heard of a place called Bryan Missionary Baptist Church?
Amen.
Anyone hear of a place called Canaan?
Amen.
Yes. London Harris family is tied to all of that. Oh, Lord, you ain't know that? That some of you who are descendants of them right now, not knowing the power of your own story in your family. Yes. You must understand your greatness. That yes, Henry Ford will come here and he had what was called Ford Farm. And we know that some now get mad about what we're about to practice, what we're about to speak. That when people go and talk about plantations, that is nothing to celebrate plantation on the end of your name. You can go and say community. Ford community, not Ford plantation or any plantation. Because it still goes and gives the children a negative image of themselves. Let them understand about community. That's what you have created today, not a legacy of shame. Because some do not understand, like you have heard, your knowledge going back to Africa. That you being the bobo, you being the bois, you having the sciences in your mind, your hearts and your souls. Much like William Craft and Ellen Craft. See, some do not understand. Oh, Lord. And I did not know that you would be here today. See, when we talk about this place right here, and you've been here from the beginning of time, you have been here, what is the oldest continuous black church in North America?
First African Baptist Church.
First African Baptist Church gave birth to a church called Second African Baptist Church. Gave birth to a church called Geechee African Baptist Church. Anybody know where Geechee African Baptist Church would be? Right on the other side of the Geechee River. Africans out of a place called Bryan County would cross the water, the Gullah, and the Battle and Gullah means boat. They would cross the Gullah and they would go over there and have church service there at Geechee African Baptist Church. Yes, right from here, secret soil, not understanding. And that this be one of the sons of first African right here. That's why I know you for be here today. God sent you here. So yes, should let you know this too. We stand on this side of the Geechee. We stand on this side of Geechee and we look. No. We told you about plantations of today. When you create plantations of today, sometimes you have falsehood created within them. And so, the Spirit make a journey here to this side of the Geechee. And we'll stand there down the road to a place. And while standing on this side of the Geechee, the Spirit then looked and saw the rice dikes right across the other side of the Geechee River. And then the Spirit looked down and saw signs that said that the Irish produced the rice dikes. Did we not tell you that Africans came with the knowledge of rice, cotton, and indigo? So here, in their own plantation, they create mythology. Ooh. Some of us do not know American history. We know American mythology. And we feed that to others, the mythology, not the history. And so with that, the Spirit looks and sees the sign that said that the Irish created the rice dikes across on the other side of the Geechee River. We saw nothing of the Africans being here put there. No conversation about that. We saw the mythology. But then also, when we speak of the ancestors, we are still there on that plantation. On that plantation, we are there and we pass by Ile and Set. We come by the city of the ancestors. You call them cemeteries. We see cemeteries that have been overgrown of Gullah Geechee people. We see right within the same body 2 of them, where now what happens, no one is taking care of them because they say, we can no longer get to it like we used to get to it. Causing us now to forget our story. So you forget your story, you forget your greatness. And so we begin to shed a tear on those who are right here on this sacred soil. But then we have some joy. Of the same place down there, we look and we see, you are at a place called First African. And you have seen that First African, and you have seen that First African too. That's our family right there. We have been there, and you all have seen the mark like this on the floors of First African, right by the bulls. The Spirit, when we are there on the plantation, we look and we go to a house. We go to a hut. We go to a house. We go to the hut. We go there and we go and see what they call the conjurer's house. There, right here in Pavilion County, on the plantation there, the community there. We're going to look and see an image of the Bakongo cosmogram. That mark is called a Bakongo cosmogram for some. Going back to Africa, that represents life, death, and rebirth. We see it right there, and we say, Ashe, be it so, amen. The Africans have left their mark right here. But what has been told to all of we, in the Spirit, listen, they said no one can talk about that. No one can talk about that. We do not want people to understand the fabric, the foundation, the sacred tree that is rooted right here of Africanity right here. And yes, that happened with Queen Quinn and myself coming down here years ago, over a decade ago, making a visit here to Richmond Hill. We went into Richmond Hill, came into Richmond Hill, and went to a gated community and saw an archaeological dig at that place. And as I'm standing on the other side of the Geechee, I'm looking at this information, I'm saying this is absolutely incorrect. Incorrect, but that is a part of the mythology. Then we'll have the archaeologist who says, we have signed an agreement that we cannot talk about this and discuss this, but we let you all see it, because we have found it. This is what we found, we got to cover it back up. So, and you heard what I just said, that's been over a decade ago, and if you want me, I'll be correct. This happened maybe about 15 years ago. Right here. So, when the question was posed to me, someone said, my brother, my Craig said to me, somebody said, how can he come down here and talk about Richmond Hill? Because I go wherever to talk about our story. I don't give you all the story, but there's enough to let you understand that I know. And I don't always talk about some stuff, but that's the experience that I had right here, personally right here. And when I stood on the other side and saw, again, the same work that was done. Because when we talk about the Geechee Canal is tied to Africans. You have successful rice plantations here because of their Geechee Canal that was dug out by Africans out of Savannah, Georgia, Bryan County, Georgia. That was done by men and women. As I tell folks, equality of labor. So when we act like our mothers are not equal to our fathers, I'm like, you don't have a clue. that they had to do the same type of work. And when you understand that, you know how to function as a family. And we talk about, again, our stories being connected, interwoven. I tell people that the American story, American history, is know about everyone's story. Not just Europeans, not just Africans, but you must know about Africans, Europeans, Native Americans, Asians, and Latinos. That's when you know everyone. You know American history then. If you don't talk about that, know about that, and excuse me, I have to say, and significant things, not superficial things like I have a dream, or George Washington chopped down the cherry tree, or talk about Pocahontas. No, significant things that are connected to all of us where we begin to understand our story. That's what we're supposed to be doing. And so that's right here in this place called Richmond Hill, Georgia. Significant history has happened right here. That's a history that has impacted the entire world. And what gets me is that when I hear people talk about the Ellen Craft, the William Craft story, about them escaping out of Macon, they talk about how Ellen was disguised as a Caucasian man, and her husband was acting like he was her servant. People talk about the marvel of that story. But when I'm listening to the people when they talk about it, and I'm just like this. I'm like waiting for them to come back to Georgia. I'm waiting to come back to Wayne Station, Georgia, come back to Richmond Hill. And generally, 90% of the people do not come back to Georgia. And if they do come back to Georgia, it's just something just like they skim over it and say nothing about a place called Richmond Hill or Wayne Station, Georgia. And I say to myself, how can they tell me my story when they don't know the fullness of my story? So that's why I can come down here, and when I look at this place right here, when I say, I'm not talking about this physical structure, when I look at the essence of me, when I come down 17 or come down 95, I am feeling, when I cross through Geechee, I am feeling the power of the story right here, not just for locals, but international. I can have a feeling, a sensation of our greatness because I have a foundation, I have a fabric that connects me, not just here, but around the entire world. That many other places cannot talk about. But what happens for so many of us, we're like, we ain't do much of this here. I'm like, you don't even have a clue. You don't even have a clue. That you have significant people who's a part of this system. That's what I feel about London Harris. London Harris did not sell his land to Henry Ford. And even today, when I think about London Harris, I think about us at Geechee when we have our sugarcane harvest. Still continuation of a story that goes back to Africa to right here. You give the young people a foundation about who they are. You let them now understand who they are. And when we look at, say, the foundation of who we are as a people, guess what? That gives us a sense of pride. And what I let people understand this, and I'm going to end with this right here, that when you understand history, it builds your self-esteem. When you have an understanding of history, your self-esteem is like this. When you know your history, your self-esteem is like this right here. And I had to learn to modify that, and I had to change it and say this right here. When you understand and know your culture, your history, your self-esteem is like this also. When you have a proper understanding of your culture, your self-esteem is like this. Nobody can put you down and make you become a creature. That's not who you are. Yes. You understand that you have greatness embedded in you, and you function like that. So as I have shared to my brother, my leader, Craig, but I said that I will give you some information, but then also I engage when I talk about conversation. I don't engage in questions and answers. For me, I call it conversation. So feel free to ask. If I know it, I will tell it to you. If I don't know it, I'll let you know I don't know. Because I don't believe in lying. So again, we open up for any conversation that people want to get into. Because there's a lot more to the story that's right here, and we know Wayne Station, Georgia. Yeah. But if not, then we're not sweating. I'm not trying to make anybody engage in conversation.
No question is stupid. No question here should be thought upon as being wrong. If you have a question, this is the time to be able to ask this professor profoundness of history that he knows you've already heard, and there's much more information he knows. So take your opportunity in time right now to take advantage of that. If you have a question, It's generated from what he said. There we go. Go ahead, miss.
What happens, no one, I have found no information with regards to that. Yes. But that's the impetus for them to come back to Georgia. Right. Now, I should share this with you. What happens, they'll eventually leave here because they say there's now some hostility that will occur here because they're not interested in Africans here. So they'll wind up going to Charleston, South Carolina. And some of the descendants of them now become ambassadors for the United States to Liberia, the Craft family. And so while I did a program in Charleston, and I talked about Dr. Crumb, who's a member of the family, Dr. Crumb. That was the guy who did the presentation. So these people came up and they said, hey, we're from New York. I'm like, okay. They said, you had spoken about Dr. Crumb and the Craft family. I said, yeah. They said, that was our grand uncle. I was like, okay, wow. And they said, we just came in by accident. How is it that when you're doing it, I said, we are not, this is not me as a professor, which means we chronicle the lives of people in story. And it is connected to the Most High. So that was interesting with regards to the Craft family. They will eventually go on to Charleston. I have some people today who talked about that. I'm a member of the Craft family. And I told them, y'all were down to Georgia before y'all got to Charleston. And when I'm saying Georgia, I'm talking about coming right here. And that was just last year when I asked them for it. I said, y'all, they said, I didn't know that was story. I said, you need to look it up. And that was the reason why they came back. Yes.
Please, Professor Jamal.
Somebody.
I know when they say their questions, can you please repeat it so everybody else knows what the question is?
You could have said that.
I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what happened in Clyde, where the folks went that were in that community.
And your name is Lisa, right? All right. Now, you all have heard of something called gentrification.
Mm-hmm.
Gentrification. What happens for so many people when they're displaced? They go into other parts of Liberty County and Bryan County. So it's not a concerted effort. And some folks, even today, some elders have talked about this, that they remember living there. And the only thing that's pretty much that still has the legacy of Clyde there now is the cemetery. It's a cemetery. So yes, the folks now are scattered into Liberty County and also parts of Bryan County. They're packed up. And in some cases, some folks talk about this, that they were told like immediately, you gotta leave. Yes? Because there were several other communities also there in what we know as Camp Stewart, but now Fort Stewart. Yes, ma'am. And
Dr. Toure, thank you so much for coming out. I always learn something when I hear from you, so it's always a blessing. So thank you for that. My question is related to, I love history. I'm not a historian, but whenever I come to a community, I always seek out the historical society and try to learn from them. And so we've been to a couple of programs here at Richmond Hill that they've done, but the knowledge and the resources are limited. But knowing that they get grants and they get funding to have a historical society, how can we push them to be inclusive? And what information can we? I don't know. I guess I'm asking, how can we get the historical society here to be more inclusive of all the people that lived in this land, not just a paragraph on Native Americans or a paragraph on one black person who lived here. Since you know how this works, if you can give us some advice.
the question that she posed was involving inclusion. And how do we get our historical societies and organizations here to be more inclusive? I'm going to answer the question, but I'm going to do it in a roundabout way to give you an example. Any of you familiar with a man by the name of Amos Morrell? Amos Morrell. He is an African who is here in Bryan County, right here in Wade Station, Georgia, and was the foreman on one of the plantations. The plantation that was owned by Richard J. Arnold, who was from the northern area, and his wife inherited 2 plantations here. So what happens is that he now will be operating the plantations right here. And Amos Morrell is the African that's now operating the plantation. And in fact, they write about Amos Morrell. They say that a writer, Frederick Olmsted, he comes down here, Olmsted comes down here, and he talks about how he meets this affable, well-dressed, articulate man. And also said the man, even when he saw the man tipped his hat to him. And he was like, he was an African named Amos Morrell. Amos Morrell also was literate. This is during the time of captivity in the state of Georgia when it's illegal to educate Africans. Amos Morrell is also literate. Again, this is in Bryan County, Richmond Hill, Way Station, Georgia at the time. So he's right here. And he also is in charge of the rice plantation and cotton plantation that's right here. That shows you the genes. That again is right there. He's operating it. And after the Civil War, Amos Morrell becomes one of the people that is absolutely connected to this experience called 40 Acres and a Mule. So he becomes one of the largest landowners here, black landowners here in this area. Amos Morrell. Out of Wade Station, Richmond Hill, Bryan County, Georgia. Now, I'm telling you about Amos Morrell. Somebody approximately in 2010 spoke to folks here in Richmond Hill at the Historical Society and had said to them, I think that you all might need to emphasize the other part of the story right here. Said that you should not just focus on Henry Ford. You need to focus on also people like Amos Morrell. And that person specifically talked about that. So what you're saying, guess what? It goes back even 10 years ago. Or better, that someone spoke to them here and told them, you need to be more inclusive about this story with regard to who we are. Because we have a much richer tapestry here in Richmond Hill, in Bryan County, than what people know about. So yes, ma'am, that was the answer. Say yes, that what has to happen right now is that people have to hold folks accountable on telling the story. Not a piece of the story, but the whole story. So how can students go to school here in Richmond Hill and not know about Amos Morrell? Significant figure. Ellen Craft. How do you not know about Ellen William Craft? How do you not know about that? How do you not know about, say, Daniel Siding and Rabbit Hill? Know about those communities. Oh, remember I talk about Geechee Kunda? Kunda means compound, family compound. That goes back to Africa. So Daniel Siding, Rabbit Hill, all that Cherry Hill, all those represented family compounds even after the Civil War up until today. So here you go, people living on lands right now, and their families go back to the 1800s, but still engaging in African tradition right now today in 2020. But we don't realize it. So we have young people thinking that there's no connection, or people think that we have no significant history right here. So yes, ma'am. So again, that's the part, being diligent and making sure folks say, because you don't know, you need to do some more research or get the people who do know to not come and share. So there's information that's out there. Don't think that Jamal is a genius. Jamal's not a genius. Jamal just does research, constantly does research, and just pull the pieces together. Sometimes it might seem distorted, but what I do, I just pull it together. You can do the same thing.
Sir, since you are gifted in history, if we were to go to our city council and our county commissioners and bring up the need to be more inclusive, would you help us to help those that do have history to bring that history in? Because I'll sit there and I'll be about these many notes deep, but it's not deep enough. Would you be willing? You're busy. You got a lot going on, sir. But would you be willing to be a resource to help us when we get the city council behind this?
Let me share this for some of you. Gullah Geechee people, let y'all know this. We have this phrase that we say, play fool to catch smacked. If you go to Jamaica, they say, play fool to catch wise. And I'll give you the interpretation. Some of y'all figure out what it is. It basically means, I'm going to act like I don't know what time it is, but I do know what time it is, but I'm not letting you know I know what time it is. And all he's doing right now, he know by him saying that to me, he know, Jamal, we're going to need you to come down here and come and meet with us. Anytime. So that was his quick way of doing that. I know he was doing. He was trying to set me up like I didn't know. I know what you was doing. I knew it. So I have no obligation. See, I know you're busy, but I know you might not have the time. But all he Jamal, when we contact you, make sure you're here. Okay, yes, sir. I got you.
Amen.
I'm obedient.
That's why he's part of my team.
Is there any books or anything, like Richmond Hill history or dummies that we can look at that you can recommend to educate ourselves?
Well, I'll give you one thing, and it's a simple book. It's a book on Richmond Hill. I want to say Buddy Sullivan did it. It's a preacher book, pretty much, but it gives you, as I said, a foundation. Now, some other things you can go deeper with regards to, but it gives you a foundation where to start with some of it that you can build upon that. And I think you can go by that, even some of the, I think like even the Walgreens, just like it's a little book, it's part of the Great American series that you have in various places they have like Charleston, Sweetgrass Baskets, you do Savannah, Lost Savannah, they do a variety, Jews in Savannah, Jews in Georgia. So they have, the Irish. So again, even in that gives you a foundation that you can build from. And that, like some of y'all know about Harris Trail Road. Harris Trail Road. Now, there's a story behind that also, when we look at about 95 and all of that even this goes back to me meeting some of the Harrises in Chatham County, having a conversation with them where they had discussed that they did not relinquish their property either for what we now see. But things happen along the way because of systems. And so, because those people have the stories. And that you see people like London Harris that I know that even if I ask some of the Harrises about London Harris, they don't necessarily know. So I was putting y'all on the spot. Actually, this applies to a whole bunch of us who are descendants of some of these people. Like I could talk about Reverend Bowles. Something like wouldn't understand the connection by Reverend Bowles to this and Deacon Gilbert. That again, part of what we know is Richmond Hill, Canaan, and also Brian Neck. Now, again, these people are part of the fabric of the society right here. But people, their descendants not knowing the possible, the power of their own story.
Quick. There's no bad going over here.
I was just, when you talk about London Harris, that didn't sell the land to
Henry Ford.
I want you to elaborate on that, because maybe some of the names that are descendants of him, or where that land was.
See how he's gonna put me on the spot. I'm not absolutely certain myself over the land, but I think it may be in the area where Harris Trail Road is, along the south of here. So that's what I'm thinking. Because when people in my own mind, when I have done my own research and been knowing the Harrises up there and riding down here with them, just right. It was the south of here, right in the Harris. That's why I think it was part of the Harris Trail Road area. That's why I talk about those family compounds. Because sometimes those streets are named after families that are in those areas that are no longer there, that you might have Harris Trail Road, but there are no Harrises there anymore. But folks were there. That was a part of the family compound that was in those areas. So that's why I go and think, now you're just trying to say, Jamal, I need you to go do some more research with regards to that. That's all you're doing right now, too. So that was that's what I'm talking about. I didn't spank on any of this right here. I'm sharing. I'll see now. Richmond Hill trying to push you on research. So next time you see me, I gotta tell you. If I'm on the scene too hot to break my nerves.
Yes, I was at the rec center years ago and ran into a gentleman named Mr. Blige. Said he was the uncle of Mary J. Blige, and he was on it to briefly speak to me about the significance of the Bride's connection to Richmond Hill. If you know anything, could you share the significance of the Blige family with Richmond Hill?
Wait, some of them are still here. Some of them, I want to clarify this too. What happened for so many of us in this area, we tend to think that no matter where we are, that's the only place we've been. That's why I want to throw it out there about with regard to the churches, that right here, that Chatham County, Bryan County, has pretty much always been connected. Historically, Bryan County came out of Chatham County and Effingham County in the 1700s, like 1794. That's when they took a part of Chatham County and created the county that we know as Bryan County. So historically, we've always been connected. So that's why some Bliges are in Savannah, and some of the Bliges are right here in Bryan County. Again, I was going to say a part of the family compound concept. So yes, Mary. Now, tell you interesting about Mary J. Blige. She had received, I want to say it was a Soldiering Award, and what she said, when she accepted the award, she said, she gave a shout out to Savannah. And I was laughing, I said, because she was shouting out Savannah, but really she was trying to say Savannah and Richmond Hill. But she didn't, I said to myself, she didn't say Richmond Hill, because some people are like, where's Richmond Hill? So what a lot of us people just going to say Savannah, the closest thing. So, and that's why those family members, they're right here. Some of them still here today. Bryan County and in Chatham County. I guess we'll get him then.
If I wanted to go back and look for where I come from, what would that?
Now, I'm just going to say this. A part of it, and again, genealogists. If you look, well, I do know of a genealogist. I do know someone that he's even helped in my own family, and he's part of our museum, Gregory. That's one way to do that. Some people are not using the DNA, but now when you do the DNA test, just like folks know, when you do the DNA, that gives you just one piece of your family story, like one line. That's not all of it, but still, yeah, that's a good thing because you still get some of your foundation. So that's like that one piece with regards to that. So from the DNA to also, I tell folks what you can do too. If you like something, you like an area, we can research in that area. We can delve into that. You know, some people know that I've had a fondness for Liberia and Haiti since I was a kid. Understand? So I immersed myself in knowing things about Haiti. And so, again, to show you about that, say again, because I had the satisfaction that then I'm a part of a group of people that would meet a delegation from Haiti. So, and Mayor Floyd Adams, who's the first black mayor of Savannah, we had to go down to Miami, part of the delegation from Savannah. So we're sitting at the table, and they have a reception for us, and the Haitians had did some things. So Mayor Adams was there, he said, Jamal, do something. Mayor Adams. I'm there with the mayor, so I go and do something. The Haitians are now looking like, who's that? They said, that's Jamal. They said, Jamal? They said, is he Haitian? Is he Haitian? They said, no, he's from Savannah. They said, no, he can't know that. No black American can know our story like that. So what happened, now they said, now talk to me, they want to know, is your father Haitian? Is your mother Haitian? Which one? You know, I'm like, I'm from Savannah. I'm from Savannah. I'm from Savannah. So they're stunned that now they said, wow. And what they started doing, they started having me come down to Florida, even going to Haiti, doing programs there. And they said, Jamal, you know why we want you to do it? Because by you being African American and you know the Haitian history, what that does for the rest of our own children, that because you got such a great pride in being Haitian history, that now causes our children now to have a sense of pride also. So that's why I say, even if you don't necessarily know directly, you can begin to find some bam. And so guess what? That builds bridges and connections. So that's what happened. Because the Haitians came here, they saw me do stuff, and they're like, he know our story better than we know our story. Because making those connections. So yes, genealogists, DNA, or just, finding a place and identifying with it. Oh.
If we were to monuments Hill, what would be the first we should memorialize?
Ellen Craft and William Craft. People write stories about that. The people have talked about it. People have documentaries, and they're going to discuss her, and her and they discuss that. And I think, like I said, the piece that I don't care about it right there, right here. I'll share it all the time. I'm trying to see if I can explain it. When I first found out about it, I was at my house doing research about the law history that night. And then going through some stuff in the encyclopedia. And so I'm looking. And then they said that but there ain't nothing here. And I'm like, because they are directly right here, right after the Civil War. Powerful story. Now again, why they come back to Georgia is tied to, where's my mother? I need to find my mother. And in fact, and I'll throw something out to you too. Ellen's father was the owner of the plantation. Why they removed African American, this is the first African American president of Georgetown, is Patrick Healy. He's also one of the descendants of Mike Healy. So Mike Healy had several African women impregnated on the plantation. So that's why, and so that part of the Healy family, they don't, like Ellen identified being African. That other part, no, they identify, some people say, if you go, then they do the Black History moments, they mention about Patrick Healy being the president of Georgetown in the 1800s. They said if Healy could turn over his grave right now, he would do that, because he tried to shy away from that. Because they wanted to send with regard to the father line, not the mother line. Yes. And so that's why I would suggest that we just go forward with regards to that. And just Alan Craft, Amos Morrell, powerful story with regards to Amos Morrell. I think that's a good story. George Washington Carver High School. I think that's another part of the story with regard to education. People right here. I think that's another one to go forward with regards to that. Not just as a historical marker, but then also showcasing that. That one thing that Ford did, now this is the thing what I was informed of, and I have not been able to substantiate myself, that the lab was created on what we know as the Ford Plantation for George Washington Carver. But I'm trying to remember I think some people told me that Carver never came and did any experiments right there, but they said that at least Ford had set up the lab. That's one thing I was told. So at least with regards to that, because George Washington Carver is the greatest scientist of the 20th century. Carver was one of the greatest scientists of the 20th century. That's why Ford enjoyed him. He loved his intellect, because he was creating things.
You touched on archaeology when you and Queen Cook went to that dig.
Yes.
Can you tell us where that was?
On a place called Ford Plantation.
Oh, it was on Ford
It was
Plantation.
on Ford Plantation. Yeah.
So, as far as other significant archaeologic sites in the area, you know, we know that there's Fort McAllister, which we only get one side of that history.
Right, because who built it? You gotta understand who built it, because again, that's significant, yes.
Yeah. And so do you know of any others that are significant to Bryan County or in this area?
You throw up Fort McAllister, that's one of the areas, but then also I'm going back to with regard to Native American history also here. I think we need to go back, we have to go back to that time period too. And then we talk about even about the names, when we looked at the Geechee River, the Geechee River that we're looking at, those areas are also part of the stories right here. Now, anybody familiar? Gullah Geechee? Gullah Geechee people? All right, Gullah Geechee people. Most of us are African Americans, right? So, are any of y'all familiar with Geechees? Who are the Geechees? Anybody know? Now, give you something that, again, the same time period, going back to like early 2000s, Queen Quetta and I had this conversation that some people were mad that they said, you got these Caucasians calling themselves Geechees. They got this Geechee quilt, but they're not African Americans. I was like, oh, yeah, that's correct. So then looking at me like, what are you talking about, Jamal? You know, Gullah Geechee, that's us. I was like, no, there's a phenomena that I told that's in Savannah, and I say in Bryan County, that's tied to the Geechee River. Caucasians along the Geechee River were also called Geechees. Now, if any of you know about a place called Armstrong State College or Armstrong Junior College, the yearbook for Armstrong was called the Geechee. It was called the Geechee. So when I said to Queen Quet, they're like, what? I said, yeah. I said, so now with us, those of us in Georgia, there are some Caucasians who can go and call themselves Geechees. But guess what? How I'm sharing it with y'all? It ain't too many of them around even knowing about that. Because see how all groups of us disconnect from our story? So here you go, people, and because it's tied right along the Geechee River. So I said, those are part of the stories that I think also, we see, doing their digs, finding out all that. Because I'm like, man, again, something that's unique to Southern Chatham County and Southern Bryan County that pretty much no one else can really say. It's just us. So I guess, and that's part of the story that, again, when we saw archaeological sites, you know, looking at the information with regards to that, what's going on with that, yes.
One in terms of archaeological sites, and I wonder if there could be even like a project or museums or some way to kind of start develop or get a community together to look at, and maybe there already is, in terms of actually systematically looking at funding and ways to kind of look at how can we systematically identify some of these sites that are being obscured or and put a kind of concerted effort and emphasis on maybe trying to re-identify some of these same areas and maybe enhance some of the research that's already being, that's already underway related to some of these sites, and so we can have actual, maybe at some point actual either monuments or even having protected in certain ways and regarded as sacred names. Talk about land being sacred and the narrative being sacred. And I wondered if some way that we could have maybe you.
You can teach us. You can teach us to speak.
Question, because that's something we're going to talk about later on through the faculty group. But no doubt about it, we will be definitely making sure that he's our lead when it comes to that very thing. That's one of our call to actions that we're going to be talking about and going to be moving in that direction. And again, he's the one that could volunteer, but that's why he's on our team, because he's like me.
Well, I will say this to you and to all of you. Now, the state of Georgia, and this again, going back in time, state of Georgia talked about designating places as, having historical integrity, that they said, and this was a meeting I was at in Savannah, and they discussed it. They said that you can have a spot and have an area designated as being historical, even if the structure is no longer there. Even if the structure is dilapidated, even if it's not there, you can still go and have that area designated as a historical area. That's on the state of Georgia. The DNR side. The DNR side. That happened in a conversation in Savannah, Georgia. That has been some time ago. Now, if the policies have changed, that's what you have to find out. But at least that was something that I said, So they said that because it was a building, I forgot where it was we were looking at. They said the building basically falling down. They said, but we want to designate that as a historical area right there. And they said, even the area, even if the building is not there, you can still do that. Because there's still a history right there that we just need people to showcase it. So yes, now you can begin pinpointing places and doing that. Yes.
Can you give us the name of a good archaeologist that would be helpful to Richmond Hill as it tries to learn its history?
What I would do, I would check with someone with regards to that. There are some groups who have been doing stuff in Savannah. I'm just not going to put it out there right now. I want to talk with them before I give you somebody, because I don't want somebody, if I give you somebody and then they don't deliver, then you're going to look at me funny. We would see that one. That's why I just want to make sure, say, hey, listen, this is what the folks are looking at. This is what you want to do. Because the one, he was tied to the University of Houston, and he did work in St. Helena and did work here and also in Texas. Because he was showing connections between St. Helena and also in Texas. Because I get people with this. There are African people in Texas who don't realize that their family members' origins are tied to St. Helena Island, South Carolina. But they don't know. They live right there in Texas, not even understand. They think it just began right there. Forgot all about the story. So, yeah.
I was just going to say, I just learned, not just a few weeks ago that there's actually a park in Richmond Hill named after a black man, Bowles Community Park, which is across from the high school. You can drive right by it and never know because it's just not been developed and it hasn't, been made significant. Or
It's supposed to be. Hopefully next year they put a budget to it.
Okay.
And it's supposed to be. We got to make sure we stay on the city to make sure that comes to pass.
And just the Bowles family, Reverend Isaiah Bowles was one of the founding members of Canaan Baptist Church. Him and Deacon Gilbert, they were the founders. That's why I say so. The stories are right here, and like I said, some of the family members are right here in this area, but we don't talk about it. We don't realize it.
Wow.
Wow. Come on, let's give this man a hand. I was blown away for the information. And he always says says something different every time I get a chance to actually speak with him and him speak with us. Come back up one more time, Jamal. I need to have you, I don't need a mic because using my voice is pretty loud anyway. I want you to explain to them what you told my wife and I one time when you said what a compound really means. When I thought about a compound when I grew up, it was either a military refugee place, or it was in some of the neighborhoods I lived, that drug dealer place down the street. That was a compound. But Jamal changed my mindset, changed my thoughts on what a compound is and where it came from. You want to tell it, Jamal?
I mentioned about Geechee, and I talked about the family compounds like Cherry Hill, Rabbit Hill, that the compounds are essentially something like this, that grandmama is right here on this side of the road, uncle and aunt right on this side of the road, cousins on this side of the road, auntie on that side of the road, and we stay on this side of the road. That's a family compound. Because what's going on is that we are there, just like in Africa. You go to Africa, you go to some of the compounds, grandmama right there, uncle right there, you right here, cousin right there. You're all there together, family compound. That's in Waitapos, that is in this area right here. But in the urban areas also, you have family compounds. Because what happens, particularly when people moved up north to areas that you might have uncle and aunt on this side of the block. At the other side of the block, that's where you all are. Then your grandma on the other side of the block. That's a family compound. They were recreating it in the urban area. Wherever people are, they're still trying to recreate their traditions. But then also, now let's go to Brooklyn. Let's go to Bed-Stuy. That what happens? Grandmama's on the first level of a brownstone. Uncle, aunt, or y'all on the second level. Then uncle, aunt on the third floor. That's a family compound also, as opposed to width, it's not based on height. All of it's family compound. That again, families understand that for us to be together. And you know what to do? Well, I throw this out there. There's this Creole phrase that I use with people too. But I say, voisins not say, family too. Voisins not say, family too. Which means the neighbor is your family too. Because you're neighbors, you are family. You look out for one another. You look out because you all want the same things. You desire the same things. You desire the same things for you, your children, your spouses, your mates. You desire the same things. And that's a wonderful thing. When you begin to understand that, guess what? You look out for each other. So then that way, if somebody might need their grass cut, guess what? Your kids might go and cut the grass. Or you all it might be so hot outside, you see somebody working, you might walk over to them with some lemonade and say, hey, here you go, some water. You know, something like that. You might. So again, I say, hey, we cooked so much food, here, this for y'all right here, this for y'all, here. Or that your brother might come by with a bunch of fish, bunch of whitings, and guess what, you like clean it? He's like, hey, you gonna give it, because that's what happened. Like people like London Harris, that's what happened. When they did the syrup making, June, that's what's gonna happen. That sometime when they did it, that meant that the family or the community came together. Everybody go to Mr. London Harris to now let him grind the cane. Then make the syrup. And so when they get it, they now share it amongst the community. Or if they're like, say, they've been hunting deers. Again, now they go right there and they do all of that right there. Family compound.
I love that. Don't you love that kind of history?
Oh yeah.
Don't you love just sitting here, just, how can I say it, just eating that good food. I mean, we're not talking about a McDonald's food. We're not talking about hearty food. We're talking about a 7-course meal that you get a chance to listen to. And that's just the tip of the iceberg that he's talking about. How would you like to be able to go to the different historical spots here in Richmond Hill, have him come back, have some other historians who live here be at each one of those spots and sit down and be able to listen to the same thing? How would you like that? Raise your hand. Because that's one of the call to actions that will happen with the Falcon Group. We are all about, as a building a movement where we are trying to bring more exposure to the rich African-American history that's right here in Richmond Hill, in the surrounding communities. When he spoke about Harris Trail, well, I thought about when we did the 2019 first parade here in Richmond Hill, the Martin Luther King one. How many went to that particular parade? Raise your hand. You remember that parade? Well, that was one that my wife and I worked 6 years to make it happen. And during that time, we made sure we got information from those who are history makers, who have families that go way back. I call them the three wise people. One of them was Donald Singleton. The second one was Karen Ball. The third one was Eugene Harris. Now, I'll stop at that last name, Eugene Harris. Why do you think that last name Harris is so familiar, or why we're bringing out, if you're connected to what we just heard Jamal say when he named the name of a Harris? Does anybody want to know the reason why? Where the connection is? Give it a try. Well, I'll let you know. Harris Trail was actually named after his family. I found that out talking to him when we were down in his place, and he said, "You know this street out here?" He's a old crotchety kind of guy. I mean, he's just that kind of guy. He's 75-year-old, still living, has seen a lot of things history-wise in Richmond Hill. And he said, "You see this street in front of here?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you see this street in front of here?" I said, "Yes, sir. I see this street in front of here." He said, "That's my family street. It's named after my family." And on this crossrail called something Trails, I forgot what it is. It's over there where the gym center is, and Timber Trail. He said, "Timber Trail, this is a whole block where a lot of African-American people lived. And they lived here. This family lived here. This family lived here. Though it's all grass here, this was a whole neighborhood of all kinds of family." And he always ends it every time I talk to him with, "And there was plenty of mud on the street, and we got around in those carts with horses." So he can tell you some of that great stories. Donald, how many people know Donald Singleton? Donald Singleton also has a family that goes way back here, especially because he's connected to the veterans here. Karen Bowl, who I have a lot of respect for. I think she was the first African-American cheerleader, and I think she also was the first representative on the school board. Her family goes way back. She tells me her dad, Bowles, was the person who started the actual historical center right here in Richmond Hill. Right here in Richmond Hill. I didn't know that, though I am like, I think, the lady back there, I'm like you. Every city I go to, I always go to the historical museum because I want to feel and see and find out about the whole spirit of this place and how it's set up, because its history is so connected to what it does now. Has everything to do with the foundation of its history. And so when I went there, I found out a little bit of history about the African Americans, but not enough of who they were until I ran into those three people. They will be our other great historians that are different places that we will set up, and for you to come and listen to this great history, and you can know more about us. And we're hoping as the Falcon Group that we will also bring out more of the families who are African Americans so they can hear their history, especially the transplants that know nothing about the history here, so they can know that this great place or this comfortable place, that they feel they live here, they can know that they are living on the shoulders, the backs, and the bodies, and the homes of other African Americans that lived here. Did you know, since we're talking about history, did you know the rice plant, the indigo plant, the one that's walked around down there, when we first walked around and did our exercising, my wife and I did, we did not know that that plantation of rice and indigo, we didn't know there was actually work by Africans. Black Americans, some of the families are still here, they know about that place. And so when we used to walk, because I didn't do the running, but anyway, walk around it, we thought it was a good tourist place. Look at the beautiful land, not knowing people toiled there, not knowing people passed away there, not knowing people were sweaty, hot in that heat out there. Until we got to talk to some of the family members. And I'll be honest with you, and we're going to make this happen. You can know that for sure. As we started 5 years ago, they want to have a memorial out there. They want when people to run, they want people to know who was out there and the people that are out there with memorials. And when we do that, we'll bring Dr. Toure in. We'll also bring in some of the families in, and they want to bless that place. It's a sacred place. Not just a place to run around with your dog and cat or worry about the alligators. It's a sacred place where people pour their life in. And we want to do that. And there's, yes, my brother way back there are other archaeological places that I know of right now where there were people enslaved, as my wife always reminds me, people enslaved, cabins that still have some of the foundation left, but they have archaeology, things they cook stuff with, which is archaeology items that are in the ground. We want to make sure we dig them up. We want to make sure that we put them in a museum, because that's one of the goals of the Falcon Group, is to open up a multicultural center. And in that multicultural center, we're going to have a historical section in it. And the historical section is going to be about the people who greatly made Richmond Hill, or the way station, as it is today. So they will never be forgotten and always be remembered. As my wife, every year when we started the Black History Month at Richmond Hill High, last year she actually put up on the walls the names of all of the families who were great here. Been here for years. And she told me that the young kids walked up the hallway who are the grandkids. And they looked up on the wall and said, I know that family, I know that family, I know that family, because it was their family name. And they would never have thought that their family name was that significant, that great, that it would be showed in the public. And that's what we're all about. We are here to try to give that exposure back to the disenfranchised, to the underrepresented people here. Not only those who are African American history-wise, but there are still some who live here now who are in the same situation. Plantation Apartment, again, a name that should not be on that. I agree with you, Brother Jamal. Across the street, Ashton Apartment. If you were Ashton Apartments, if you were with us when we were doing that, a peaceful, what was it? Peaceful protest. How many went to that peaceful protest, by the way? You didn't know that you were standing in two of the underrepresented, disenfranchised areas in this community. Did you not know that at all? That's why we picked that place. We wanted to let them know that we care about them, because many times they feel like they're left out from the rest of the community. And we wanted to let them know we care about them, and that we are going to care about them. We're all going to reach back to them. I had a long speech that my wife put together for me to read. I'm not going to read it. I'm not going to read it. Not after Brother Jamal, as he always comes up and just sets the atmosphere the way as it should be, whatsoever.
We won't tell her.
Know this, the Falcon Group's heart is his heart. Know that his passion for people, and his passion for people who have been not given that notice in this world, where their voice has been silent. His passion is all passion. His passion is all passion. He also happens to be the vice president of Unity in the Community, which is the umbrella over the Falcon Group, which we started in December of 2019, I said. And our foundational board, or foundational team, was David. Did you know David, at almost the beginning of him listening to Jamal, did you know he got up and walked way over that direction? Did anybody notice that at all? Probably not. But he did. He did, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't mind. He did because he was broken inside to know all this special, great, rich history is here, and yet he's been here and he knows nothing about it. Nothing about it. Not in the papers, not in the magazines. Hardly nothing that comes out of Richmond Hill talks about this great history. But don't you want to know it? Mm-hmm. There are many people who travel here who want to know it too. And I know, since we've been here and beat the street, I know there's a lot of indigenous people who are sad because nobody knows what they know. Nobody knows what they know. And they cannot be forgotten. So we have 8 call to actions. The first one is history. Bringing the history back of this culture in this area, the Gullah Geechee history. The next one is entrepreneurship. Business here. There are African American businesses here that need even that much more exposure and at the same time support. Plus, we want to make sure there's an opportunity for people who move here as African Americans and other diverse people that they can start business here, and they will be supported. And that there's nothing wrong with that. The medical arena needs to be also looked upon here. We know that there are a lot of people, at least in the Ashton, the plantation, I don't even like to call it, it's called the Richmond Village now, apartment complex that have real health problems. Many of them can't get to a doctor or a hospital. And you know what a hospital is here, don't you? I had to take my wife yesterday to the hospital, to the emergency room. It's way over there. I think we should have one closer myself. But they have a hard time getting around to get to these medical places to take care of their problems, because we have a lot of older people who live right in that apartment complex. If you don't know that, I know that. I know some of the things they're going through, and they have no one who's really outreaching to them to help them out. I know, Brother Marcus, raise your hand real quickly. We want to congratulate him being part of the group. He just won, I think it's 164. Very glad of that. We know one of his concerns is the medical arena. So we will be working with him on the political side, because that's important. The political side is important. Thank you, Brother Jamal. Hold on.
That's just for the primary. That's the primary.
Oh, that's a primary. Thank you. Well, see, I'm looking in the future. I'm looking for the future. Anyway it goes, I know he's going to work with us. I know he's not running just to be running now, and then when it's over, he's going to go back home and say, oh, well, that was a good run.
What's he running for?
God, what are you running for, Mark?
State representative. I'm running for state representative for District 164, and to bring concerns of this matter to the State House. It's the only way we're going to change this is if we engage with the community and find out exactly what's happening here on the ground.
Yes. The next one is education. Very important. As I said before, my wife is I think one of the only teachers, where she was at least for about 3 or 4 years, Afro-American teacher, maybe longer than that, English teacher at Richmond Hill High. And one of the things that she told me there at Richmond Hill High is that there are a lot of Afro-Americans that are at that school who are behind in their grades. They're not doing well at all when it comes to the reading side. And reading is so important. You're having a hard time reading? No, I'm sorry.
And she is the only African-American teacher at that high school of 2,000 kids that teaches a core subject, one for math, science, English, history. Only one person that looks like me teaches, and that impacts kids, especially when they're having a hard time. Mm-hmm. It's not always about race, but that is not representative. That should not be. Please, sir.
Thank you very much. She'll be very happy that you said that, by the way. And it's being recorded live. It's live. So, again, we also have found out that the reading grades on comprehension is very, very low. It's the lowest in all of the races, though. That's right. They do take a demographical look at the kids within that school, as all school systems do. And the African Americans are the lowest. And so we need to work with them. We need to help them. It is not just a case of they don't want to read. It's not a case as if they don't have the ability to be able to read. It has a lot to do with that support, single-parent families. Not being able to get access to the library because they have no transportation. Not having even internet connection because they don't have enough funds to be able to get connected when it comes to doing school. You want to say something on that?
Yeah. As a student at Richmond Hill High School, I know one of the big things too is we feel such a great disconnect from what we're learning. We read all these stories from these white authors, but we hear nothing from these black authors. We don't read Langston Hughes poems. We don't read from these great African American authors. So there's this disconnect in the education, and we can't connect to what we're reading. The only story I've been able to connect to is To Kill a Mockingbird, and it's about the death of a black man. That is not the only story I should hear. That's not the only story I should be forced to read. I should be able to read something that gives me empowerment, something that lets me feel empowered when I read about my people. I should be able to read about the history of my people. There needs to be a connect for the students, for us reading these books, so that everybody can connect with what we're reading.
Hey, thank you. Give that young man a hand. He has helped us more than once in our activities we do here. He also helps us on River Street when we do that large event out of there. And that's one of our call to action, youth leadership. The youth here many times have nothing to do, and they either go to the military or they go to some college, and they just escape out of here. When there are things that need to be done here, and the youth have the energy, the youth have the passion, the youth have a whole lifetime ahead of them. And so we want to work with the youth, and that looks like one of our leaders right here with what he just got through saying.
But he also got drafted too. I ain't got no drafted.
Professor Jamal, we will take it. Don't worry about that. You will get something. Housing. One of the biggest things that is sold here is a success path to ownership of house. Isn't that one of the things that Richmond Hill pushes a lot as being a successful place to come to besides education? Is that you have a path to be able to own a home one day. And there's some beautiful, different neighborhoods that homes are built and people live in. I live in a pretty beautiful neighborhood. It flooded last night pretty bad, but anyway, it's a beautiful neighborhood where there are some people who move here, they would like to get out of their apartment complex and have a successful path to ownership of a home. We want to work with them. We want to make that happen, whether it's subsidized housing, whether it is helping them how to understand credit, whether it is in turn helping them to understand what they need to do those things and more. We want to help them and let them know they have a right to the path of success in home ownership here. That's another one. Politics. That's a long story about politics here. I would say something to you that I'm not afraid to say, but the good old boy system has been here too long. And some of you know what I'm talking about. That good old boy system has been here too long. And we know that there's a transition that's going on in the good old boy system here. We know that. And we are part of and want to be part of that good old other system that's going to push them out. That's going to push them out. We are glad that after the Martin Luther King parade in 2019, this young man, raise your hand. Donald, David, raise your hand. Both of these young men became the first African Americans that we know of history that stepped to the plate to want to become, what was it?
City council.
City council people. What a historical movement that they felt, triggered and motivated by the 2019 parade that we did. And we use that as being a seed to say, yes, you can. We don't need a hand up. A hand out. We need a hand up. And it worked. And I think he ran again, and somebody else I forgot ran again. We want to make sure that we get someone of color into that city council, whether it's a woman or a man. So we're working on it. That's one of our directions when it comes to politics. Of course, Marcus also gave us another direction when it comes to politics, because we know that we're going to have to talk to city officials. We know we have to talk to state officials. We know that we're going to have to get groups together to even lobby. How many people have ever lobbied before at a state level whatsoever? Raise your hand. I've lobbied many times at a state level. I didn't know how strong and how much your voice will be heard when you start lobbying at the state level. There are many companies that lobby every day at the state level who are flying and walking and driving up on the state level in Atlanta to get their way, to get what they want. Because that door is open. But there's not enough citizens who don't understand. You can do it too. That door is open for you to do that. And so we're going to be working on doing some state lobbying. Hopefully you'll be part of that politics to be able to help us out. Community events. Ideas to bring people together. How many would love to have more community events that are diverse here in Richmond Hill? Do you know in 2013, right in this place, my wife and I did a Jazz and Unity in the Park, right here. We had a whole bunch of people of different cultures and different backgrounds that came here with a couple of vendors. They stayed. We just had a blanket on the ground, and there's my first little speaker system. I thought nobody was going to show up. It ended up almost 200 people showed up. I could not believe that. And it started to rain. It rained and thundered and it poured down here. Do you know what? Nobody left. Nobody left. They all stayed. And I said, everybody can go because I know it's raining. Nobody left. They all stayed, and we carried on with that event. That told me something. There's a hunger and a thirst for that here in Richmond Hill. We did another one in 2014. I don't know if you've been to that one. It was a larger one than that. We had a stage up front there and had a whole bunch of bands up on that stage. We had this all full, and there was some stuff going on, bouncy houses around, and it was very successful. So we know that entertainment, diverse entertainment, is important to bring people together. Music is what? Universal when it comes to that. So we want to bring that here and give people a chance to have different, diverse music, different, diverse entertainment. I had someone talk to me, I think it's the gentleman back there in the back, I think it's Chuck, right? He talked about, and I think it's very good, we also want to look at doing what we call, anybody ever been to a block party? Raise your hand if you've ever been to a block party. So we want to do some block parties. We want to pick certain blocks. This guy talked about, he doesn't barbecue. He told me already it's his wife that does the barbecue. Hey, I'm not mad at you because guess who does the barbecue in Alberta that I call it in my home? It's my wife. I gave it to her. She does it. She does it well too. I just bought her the right kind of barbecue grill she wanted, but she does that, and she does it very well. So we want to look at going to different blocks on certain weekends, and we're going to have a block party, getting everybody together, making sure we bring this kind of information, other information. But the most important is in that block, we're going to find out what their needs are. What is your need? What is your need? What does your family need? And then we're going to try to address that. Because this is an activist organization. An activist organization. And an activist is all about doing things that is part of being active, not sitting around. Another one I have on the list. Land ownership. I think over there, as Jamal brought up, in fact, the couple you brought up, Jamal, the librarian who's over the library in Richmond Hill, she told us the same story that you talked about, that couple, which we didn't even know. Do you know there's a book written on them? A book written. And we're going to make sure if you keep up with us on Facebook, we will put down the name of that book and you can go to the library and pick that up because she told us about it. So they're well known, they have a book about it, but you will also find that there is a lot of land in Richmond Hill that have been, I'll use a word that people may know, who have been shenanigans. Some shenanigans happened that their land's been taken from them. Were taken from them. But there were a lot of African-American families whose land were taken from them. Some, I won't mention, are in court right now over this. Right now over this. So land ownership is something that is part of our 8-point call to actions, or we're going to do projects to be exact. Our last one is what I said the first time, is our youth leadership. My wife, who's in the high school, she's like, and hear her say, she's like the Kool-Aid mom. Everybody comes to her. Everybody talks to her. I'm not talking about just black. I'm talking about white. I'm talking about every color. They can be even misfits. They come to my wife and talk to my wife. She's open to that. Am I right, young man?
Absolutely.
So everybody knows her. And she started the first diversity club along with, what was your daughter's name? Adia. Yes. And, you know, I just met Adia for the first time face to face at the Peace Protest. I've never met her before. She told me a lot about her, but that's the first time I met her. First time we met her. We hope she stays involved as she said she will. So the diversity club that Sharon's been doing for the last 4 years, we are going to now take them, like I said, out of the lab and bring them out to the streets. Bring them out in the open. Give them some things to do, because our youth, as I said before, is our next direction. They are the ones who are going to take these civil positions. They're the ones who are going to be our new, maybe will be our new mayor. One of our young folks will be a new mayor here. Who knows? We want to make sure we train them. We want to make sure we give them this rich history. We want to let them know that they are important. We want to let them know that you are not here just to be born, to eat and sleep and then pass on. You got a right to make a name for yourself in this world, on this earth. And I hope every parent believes the same way too. Did you want to say something? Oh, okay. Okay. So I just want to end that there and say that if there are anyone out there that they would like to help us with this, in any of these 8 areas, one of the first things you have to call to yourself, do you feel called to serve the black diverse community here in Richmond Hill? You got to answer that question. Do you feel your role is to serve on this earth? If those 2 questions you can answer truthfully here, yes or no, then we want you to be a help to us. We will need you to be a help to us. You will need to go after this event over to David, and David will instruct you on how you can join up in any one of the areas of all the areas, because we're going to need your help. Our core team is going to need your help for us to move in these 8 call to action areas. And we would love to be able to meet you, give you some more information on what the next step will be, and whatever talents that you have that you feel moved in that area, all these areas, we will work with you so we can make this happen. David, you want to come up and talk a little bit? Let's give hand to David. He's a young man. He's very new to what we're doing grassroots. He's been in the military. He ran for city council. When I first had a chance to meet him, I took him and this young man over to a black barber shop, and we sat down and schooled these young men about the history here. Their ears were open. They didn't give me the kind of concept, you are old man, you don't know nothing, so I ain't going to listen to you. They did. They were open, and turned that told me they wanted to learn. They felt it's important to learn. And when that happens, as the older generation, we have to pass it on. We have to pass it on. And as I told him, I'm definitely trying to light his, what was that? His fire, your torch. But at the same time, being an older guy still on fire, I ain't letting mine go either. I will probably do this till I pass away from that here. There ain't no retirement for you. I'm always retired. But anyway, Dave, why don't you tell a little bit more about it?
Okay, really quick. I tried to send out to you guys that signed up for this at RSVP'd. I sent out a link. So take a look at your phones. My thing is still spinning, so you might not have received it. If you did not receive that link to a form for you to sign up, and I know we ask you for your email address and your phone number every time, but once we get going and cooking, then we won't ask you that all the time. But that's for you to sign up for each of those action areas. And folks, we have a window. For some reason, a window has opened up after the killing of George Floyd. And instead of people that look like me being the only people that are raising sand, it's a community thing. It is an American thing. It is a neighbor thing. And that window that is opened up is what's going to help things to change. So it's going to take all of us to make this stuff better. And you just don't know how, I got chills right now from listening to the history and from just seeing again that this is not a black thing. This is not a white thing. This is not a racist thing and calling people names. This is making sure we do what is right. And so please go ahead and take, raise your hand if you got the form. I just want to know. Okay, I got one, I got two other. So if you didn't get the form, just come on over here and I'll text it to you. If you got the form and you got an iPhone, raise your hand. Airdrop that sucker, man, if you know how to airdrop. I do that with my students all the time. So airdrop that if you can for anyone else. And we don't. Do we share that form with the far line? Yes, go ahead and share it. Share that with whoever you think is interested in helping out the Falcon group, okay? Because it's going to take all of us to make it happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. I want to tell you that this real story real quick before we end. I was out on a plantation about a week ago. And it's a kind of well-known plantation only from the fact that a lot of films are on it about African Americans. And I talked to this person who took me on this tour of this particular plantation. I said, how come they're doing films on this plantation about people who've been enslaved, yet the people right here in Richmond Hill who have been enslaved, many of them can't even get access to the very place that some of their people were on. In many of the indigenous people, transplant people who've been transplanted here are African Americans who watch those very same videos that were recorded here. They don't even know where that place is. I find that being very, very strange. In fact, my wife says she finds that being an oxymoron. Whatever that means, I don't know. But that's what she says. We're going to change that. Because as I talked to her, I found out there are some old slave houses and homes still there. Nature has covered them over. And we want to get out and do some artifact digging. So yes, as he asked that question back there, sir, that's why I kind of put you on hold. Not because I didn't want you to say what you said. You just were speaking to me that which I was already in the plan of doing. And when you brought that over to Brother Jamal, he doesn't even know I even have been having that conversation to work on that. But you know how the Spirit works. It works in synchronicity, moments, and in time. And there is a historical professor here of archaeology here. And when I tell you who it is, you'll jump. Who we are looking at to work with us. And we hear that he may be interested. It's amazing how when the Spirit starts moving, our ancestors start moving, things begin to move for them. Because their very souls cry out for righteousness. And so as Martin Luther King, one day righteousness will roll down on us like rain. That's the direction we're going. Through wise saying, I want to leave this to you. Remember, a small group of thoughtful people can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Margaret Mead. Another one. Preservation of one's culture does not require contempt or disrespect to the other cultures. That was Cesar Chavez. Last one, an old wise African saying called Mbutu. I am who I am because of who you are. Thank you for coming. God bless you, and I'll share. Go ahead and mingle with one another.
Yeah, if you didn't get a form that says here's what Craig was talking about, if you didn't get that in your text message, just come on in. My phone's been going kind of slow, but I'll be glad to text that to you.